Islam, Islam, Islam. Brother Maurice Pennington Bay, Brother Shay Rael, Moorish Master Students, Paradigm Shifting the Podcast. Today's episode is the science of the Moorish people. Islam. What's up with the Moab?
Islam, all praise be to Allah, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, honors to the forerunner of the Prophet, Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, honors to everything Moorish, and a special honors to you, Brother Maurice Pennington Bay, master student, master educator. You know, he has masterful degrees, and all praise be to Allah for the gifts of the understanding, but honors to the men who decide to cultivate those understandings and give them out for, others' instructions, as well as, to further ourselves, So it's a blessing to be here. All is well, being industrious.
Absolutely. The science of the Moorish people. First and foremost, I want to make it plain. I want to make it understood for everybody listening, everybody in the future who, will go back and watch this podcast, right? We're being very intentional today with this subject, because the Moorish people are all of the Asiatics everywhere. We have so many different, halls of learning within the Asiatic nations of the world that it is absolutely ridiculous, but being the founders of the first civilization on this planet, being the first people to ever walk this planet, it's only natural that we would, have diverse perspectives about the great God of the universe and, what he gave us in the form that he gave it to us. So when we talk about the Moorish people, I want to make it plain. You do not have to be a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America to be one of Allah's Moorish people. Remember that we are descendants of God. Listen to me now, y'all. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the 101s, he asked us a question. He says, who made you? The answer is Allah. He said, who is Allah? The answer is Allah is the Father of the universe. So our most ancient ancestor is God. A lot of people say, why are we Moorish Americans? And the Prophet asked us that question. He said, why are we Moorish Americans? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. He didn't say that we were descendants of Morocco. Our flag is over 10,000 years old, over 50,000 years old. Morocco ain't that old, but Morocco is the modern name for the ancient Moabite people.
That's
okay?
Right.
And the term Moabite means seed of the Father or children of God. So our most ancient ancestor is God. Okay. And you don't have to be a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America for Allah to be your most ancient ancestor. We talking about the Asiatic race.
Islam. Again, honest. I think it's a really good topic because it's going to force some explanations on some things that have become very controversial due to ignorance. Okay, not controversial due to a foundation of falsehood or corruption and things of that nature, but mainly due to ignorance, just and due to some folly. And when I say that, I mean just the foolishness of a fool. You know what I mean? And the reason why I say that is not to be radical or insult anyone, but there is a nature to a fool. The fool, for example, is stubborn and he knows of all things but his own ignorance. So the fool arrives at a piece of understanding and decides this is the understanding, and then has the nerve to start saying any other understanding that I can't recognize as being connected to my understanding. It's just totally incorrect because I have the end all be all right way. And this is why we have to be students in this life. This is why we have to spend our life not only studying, there are other things to be done. However, study has to be kind of like breathing. You don't stop doing everything else in your life because you're breathing, but while you're doing everything in your life, breathing is a major part of your activities. And like so, study needs to be that. And as you and I were speaking prior to the podcast commencing, I told you I was going to bring this up. First, you make a really good point about the Moorish, the science of the Moorish. Indeed, the word Moor is sitting there. We're talking about all Asiatics. And when I talk about Asiatics, I'm talking about my people of hue that, went into Asia. And when we're talking about Asia, when you talk from the Moorish scientist perspective, and when you're talking about Asia, we're talking about from the moment you went from being a spirit. Well, you've never gone from being a spirit of Allah. You still are that. But the moment in which you were wrapped in a garb of flesh, the Moors named flesh Asia. You know what I'm saying? The continent Asia is something that came much later. It's a carnal thing, obviously. It's a physical thing. So anyway, when we're talking about Moorish, obviously we have the Moors sitting right there in the beginning of that word. And so we're talking about all of the Asiatics, indeed. However, we are showing where certain things are being practiced by the last prophet in this day and time. Yes, not the last prophet that will ever come. We have not been given authority to say what Allah will not do. And we understand that the thoughts of Allah change not, because Allah is the truth, and the truth is that which changes not. But the last prophet in these days, we were blessed as a people, right, that had reached the lowest lows. We were blessed as a people to have a prophet come within our midst. And I'm talking about Noble Drew Ali, and bringing us a method in this new era of time now, to fight a foe that grows as man evolves. And so when we're talking about Moorish and not just Moors, we're talking about a nation of people that have something to offer, not some nation of people that feel like they own something exclusively. We just have something to offer. Toyota doesn't own cars exclusively, but if you want a Toyota, you're going to go to that factory. Okay, right. You see what I'm saying? So we don't own Islam. Islam is universal.
Islam.
Essentially, Islam is universal, and this is what everybody needs to understand, because we don't deal with separatism. All right, we don't deal with separatism. When you're talking about living things, separatism is the same as saying the word cancer. So Islam does not deal with separatism. It's a unifying thing. Okay. But when we're dealing with Islam, it's the underlying principle of every living thing, as well as the law that governs all events that even deal with things that are not necessarily living. So in other words, if a rock falls off a cliff in Tibet, it's because Allah willed it. All right. So we're talking about animate objects as well as inanimate. But understand this. Islam is universal. However, when it manifests, it is always. And when I say the word always, I mean all the time. Meaning time never was when it was not this way. It always is culturally particular. Okay, so the culture in which it's practiced, the rituals, the rites, okay, the symbolisms and things of that nature, the customs and the practices is always particular to a nation. It's always culturally particular. However, cultural particulars do not alter the nature of the truth. So the reason I say this is just because you see the Moorish Americans here of North America practicing the same old Islam that ever was. Time never was when Islam was not. Maybe the word was different from a carnal standpoint, but time never was when the essence that we are named Islam was not. When you see us in our practices, it is not because we are trying to reinvent the wheel. It is not because we don't have respect for what the Prophet Muhammad brought. Peace and blessings be upon him. It is not because we don't have respect for what the Prophet Abraham or Moses or Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, etc. brought. We are practicing Islam according to not only the most ancient forefather, but through the particulars of our not so ancient forefather as Allah, such as some of his prophets, and some of his angels and things of that nature. So just because you see it practiced differently does not mean that we are placing new ownership on it. Does not mean that everybody else's practices are incorrect, not from a Moor standpoint. All right. What it means is that we're following the ways of our prophet. And if we're talking about a real prophet, okay, if we're talking about an actual prophet and not some of these false prophets, all right, that the Prophet Muhammad has warned about in the Holy Quran of Mecca, we have it as the revealed word of Allah. We're talking about a real prophet, then that same one way, which means the direction towards truth, that same one way everyone is following it, regardless of the customs and traditions. If we're talking about truth, Islam.
Islam, and we are absolutely talking about truth. The one thing that changes not. Okay, so I want to direct our attention. I want to direct our attention to something that the Prophet Noble Ali teaches us in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America in chapter 10. He says that all the people worship Allah the One, but all the people see him not alike. You know, he didn't say that, you know, some people, you know, worship Allah the One sometimes, or that all the people worship Allah at some point. He said all the people worship Allah the One, but all the people see him not alike. You know, so with that being the case, as a Moorish scientist, we from the point where we learned this particular lesson, we start to look for those things within these other schools of thought and these other halls of learning that we all have in common. All right. So when I first joined the Moorish Science Temple of America, everyone knows I was in prison. All right. I went to every single solitary religious meeting that there was. The only meeting that I didn't go to was I would have to make a choice to either go to Jumu'ah with the Nation of Islam or go to Jumu'ah with the Sunni community. So while in the institution, I must say that I went most of the time to the Nation of Islam, and I studied the study guide. I was at these meetings. My attendance at these meetings were better than all the other members. You know, I used to go to study Bible with the African Hebrew Israelites, you know, and just build, you know, with these individuals on, you know, the Bible. I used to go to the Rastafarian communities and study the, you know, the idea or the ideal of a universe, you know, a universe. Now, to me, this particular teaching, which is, you know, might be considered unique to the Rastafarians, but it's a universal teaching that we should all recognize. The universe, they always say I and I. And I'd be like, wow, you know, in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Prophet Noble Ali teaches us that the universal Allah is one, yet he is more than one. All things are one. And this is the same thing that these brothers were sharing at the time. I and I, you and I, we are one. We are one not only with each other, but we are also one with our God. And I say, whoa, these is the same thing. Wisdom is the consciousness that man is all, that Allah and man are one. It is a consistent awareness, something that we keep and hold on to. No matter what we're doing or where we go, we keep this awareness, this consciousness that God is always here in our body, animating our body, that we are truly not the body nor the soul. We are actually spirits and a part of Allah. All right. And not just because I joined the Moorish Science Temple of America did I become one with God. Not just because I joined the Moorish Science Temple of America, proclaimed my nationality, registered with the temple, and paid my dues. That does not make me one with God. You know, and I think that it's important for us to really, you know, share this teaching, share this consciousness, share this, you know, treasure with everybody. Bro.
Islam. That's a good point. Just so that people can kind of make it a little bit more personal with themselves. Let's make sure we understand something, if it isn't already understood. When we're talking about the science of the Moorish people, what we're talking about is a knowledge of self, a knowledge of who you actually are. That's not something owned by any one nation of people. A knowledge of who made you, a knowledge of how to expand your personal understanding. Because as a child, all I knew was the word God. Okay, but there wasn't much understanding behind that. Grandmama said God, I say God. Okay, but as man unfolds, you know what I'm saying? His God unfolds. Right. Not magically, but due to what happens naturally to man. As man unfolds, the inner voice, his reasoning starts to demand more. And if you don't feed it, you get the hunger pains. His understanding starts to demand more. And if you don't feed it, you get hunger pains. They show up as discontent, dissatisfaction in life. How many times have you found yourself saying, man, I'm just bored? Okay, what you don't understand is that's the soul yearning out for food. You see what I'm saying? Not just any food, because if there's no nutritional value, you're not really eating. Okay, so it's starting to demand that you do things, and the Moorish science, it includes a methodology on how to expand your personal consciousness, how to expand the powers and the abilities of your thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing, and remembrance. How to use these things, what they actually are in essence, what they actually are beyond what Noah Webster says they are. Because for a lot of people, if you don't know this, dictionaries don't truly give meaning. Dictionaries hand you ideas that if you put them together properly, you can formulate meanings in the workshop of the mind.
Islam.
Okay. And a lot of us think that if we just go into a dictionary, snatch something out, memorize that, and be ready to parakeet the so-called definition upon request, then we're doing good. We're looking to be right in someone's eyes. Don't worry about that. Just worry about being one with Allah. So the Moorish science is what educates man. When I say educate, I mean I'm speaking more to the spirit of an ancient Moorish Latin term known as educare. Educare is where this word education comes from today. Okay, well, it finds most of its origin. And educare translates as bringing out that true thing lies within oneself. So in other words, true education is to engage in that which serves to ultimately bring out that thing that lies in man. And since I am the temple of the great God Allah, what I'm trying to do is bring Allah out. What do I mean by this? I mean, I'm trying to be his his most noble expression.
Islam.
When you are one who expresses the will of Allah, when you are one who expresses, when you are one who uses his abilities for the sake of Allah, you're called a son. Investigate the word son. The word son from an ancient aspect prior to our colonization meant what's the word I'm looking for here that I just used? It means an expression, Islam, pardon the body. So it means expression. So when you're expressing the will of Allah, that's what's known as a son. Okay, don't worry about male or female. It's called a son. You are expressing. And so the Moorish science is that which serves to initiate. Make you an initiate. And when I say initiate, stir, quicken, and awaken someone at the soul level so that they are able to independently raise their thought processes to infinite wisdom. It's time for us to stop believing in the superstitions, stop believing in the falsehoods, okay, and constantly wondering why the truth isn't being made a fact before our inner eye. If you're searching for the falsehoods, whether consciously or unconsciously, the falsehood is what manifests before the inner eye. Okay, and so the Moorish science is a science that serves to feed the nation and medicate the nations of people here, all over the world, in a manner that helps to raise our thoughts to infinite wisdom. It's time for us to stop thinking in a manner that's categorized as hate. It's time for us to practice love. It's time for us to practice truth, peace. It's time for us to see the manifestation of freedom through the practices of these types of laws. And the thing is, the Moorish science is what allows a man, woman, or child. The Moorish science is what allows us to actually initiate the practices. Okay, because what we've had thus far, if we continue that way, you will continue to get what you've gotten thus far. Okay, that's science. You know, the Moorish science, and before I yield, the Moorish science is literally a mercy of Allah.
Islam.
Okay? It's a mercy of Allah. It is the act of it is once you take it in and assimilate it. Okay, so once you acquire it, take it in and then start digesting it by reflecting upon what it is that you have. Okay, it is literally that acts as a mercy, that which can assist you in saving the living spirit from dead states of mind, from cancerous states of mind. Islam.
You know, I remember the brother Elihu Pleasant Bay. Pleasant Bay called Moorish science, the science of the Moorish people. He said that the science of the Moorish people is a power that exerts itself for the individual at the will of its user. All right. And I like that definition. That's why I never forgot it. And all these years I never forgot that because I like that definition. But we have to qualify it. We have to qualify it, which is what he didn't do, because what then is the power? It said that the science of the Moorish people is a power that exerts itself for the individual. So what kind of power? It's a saving power. All right. It's a saving power. Now, are we, the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, do we have a monopoly on the saving power? No. Because if we were to have a monopoly on the saving power, then our God, Allah, then would not be merciful. This is the part that I believe that other people forget or they fail to realize when they start to believe or to think that, well, if I don't practice Sunni fashion of Islam, then I won't be saved. Or if I am not a Christian, then I won't be saved. Or if I don't accept the ancestors through the Ifa Yoruba form of worship, then I won't be saved. If I am not a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America and a member of this particular grand body, then I won't be saved. Well, when we start to think like this, then what we are calling God is not merciful. We're in the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Prophet Noble Ali tells us that Allah is all mercy.
That's right.
Islam, he said he is all mercy. That's not some mercy, but all of it. All right. So when he say that it's the science of the Moorish people is a power, then he said that it exerts itself for the individual at the will of its user. So now every individual who is Moorish has this power. You understand me? Now, this power needs to be initiated, like you said. This is where the process, because the child is as perfect as the mother is.
That's right.
But the seed has to be cultivated. It has to be nurtured. It has to be grown. Okay. And it does not germinate in the light. It germinates in the darkness. So it's a reason why we are in this carnal state called Asia.
That's
okay.
Right.
Now, this is something that kind of defeated me. This is something that defeated me. I remember I made a post, and in the post I was, seeking or attempting to communicate to Moorish America that we are not Asiatics because we are from Asia, the continent, no, we are Asiatics because the plane of things made manifest was called by our ancestors Asia.
That's right.
So to be Asiatic is to be the original human being who walked upon the plane of things made manifest. And then when we talk about the plane of things made manifest, we're not just talking about being earth. It said that Allah is the father of the universe. Okay?
Islam.
So we have ones in the Asiatic, we have Asiatics who study this, who teach this, at different degrees all across the planet. I remember I had a celly. Named Shaki. Shaki was Ifa Yoruba. He was the Mukongo or the Ifa Yorubas on the institution where I was at. So I studied with Shaki every day, all the time. I'm talking about we built, we had some great builds, me and this brother. And we studied Metal Netta, and I remember I asked I realized something when looking at one of the at the Paul Netta root, or what they call the tree of life. I realized that when you look at the diagram that's symbolic for the tree of life, where's the tree of life, all of the different spheres on the tree of life are different aspects of the man. These are different characteristics, different traits of the man. Okay. That's all that these are. These are not gods. Our ancestors were not polytheists. All right. Our ancestors acknowledged that Allah manifests himself in the plane of things made manifest in so many different manifest forms. Okay. Now, for a man, they were intelligent enough to give character to character, because we all have a character, and our character have different character traits. So they gave character to each one of these traits so that it can be studied, so that they could better learn themselves. Okay, right. So when you see these netters, when you see Asar, when you see Tahuti, when you see Sakur, when you see Mayat, when you see Haru, when you see Haru, when you see Sebek, when you see Aset, when you see Jael, you are only seeing different attributes, different manifestations of your own personal character.
That's right.
So when I looked at the tree of life one day, I asked the question. I said, why isn't Set or Ra on the tree? Why aren't they a part of this Paltnetta root? And we were studying at the time the tree of life as it was taught by Raun Nefer. Okay, so they was, they went to demonstrating their different measures and stuff, and I was like, yeah, but that's not what I'm looking for. So they just was like, brother, okay, Mo, what is you talking about? I say, well, Ra, they misnomer Ra. They say the sun god, him or a tongue, the sun god. No, Ra is symbolic for spirit energy. That's which right. All living things have. All living things have this spirit, this energy that animates them, that gives life to all of our different parts. And this spirit, it comes from God. In the Quran, what did he say? He said he placed in man his ruh. In the Bible, it say he breathed it into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So without this spirit, the soul wouldn't even live. Okay, so there was no need for there to be a spirit on the Paltnetta root, Ra, because the Ra is in every single spirit on the Paltnetta root. Because the netters would not have life if it wasn't for the spirit. And then sex symbolizing that lower ego. See, our ancestors didn't believe in no devil. They knew that the only devil from which man needed to be redeemed, his name was self. Okay, so they considered the ego as the thing that we needed to be aware of the most. Beware of the ego. We know that, vanity hideth the heart, blind the eye, hideth the heart of a man from himself. Okay, we need our heart. If one who does not have a heart, they can't see. They can't see. Thinking and seeing is synonymous. If you can't think, you can't see. Okay, so if man does not have a heart, his heart is hidden from himself, he can't see, he's blind. These are the carnal men who we say that they love the dark, because we trying to figure out why they're not coming into the light. But they can't see the light. And even when they see the light, they don't comprehend the light. All right. So this ego, this lower self, which is here for a reason, is also in every spirit. Okay. That's the right. Prophet Noble Ali teaches us in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America that man held deep within himself all the attributes of Allah. All of the attributes, every single last one of them. He also tells us that unnumbered foes will stand before the face of man. These unnumbered foes are the antagonists to these attributes. Okay, that's right. This carnal nature that came forth from fleshy things. It's a carnal nature. Okay, right. So for every attribute of God, for every higher attribute, there is a lower nature called a foe. Because just like the muscles on your body, you got bicep, but you also got a tricep. And believe it or not, they are contending against each other. They're striving against each other every moment of your life. You understand me? So these foes and these higher attributes, this ego. So what did our ancestors say about an egotistical person? They called them a Setian. And what did that term? It took on a whole nother when it switched dialects, it became Satan. But it's the same thing. It's the same. You see? So we have much more in common with one another, spiritually. Spiritually, because in our worship, we are all striving toward the same thing, a religion. The word re, that prefix right there means that something is happening again. This legal or this legion, that's being formed between you and Allah. What it say in the beginning of your Quran? Know thyself in Allah. The what? The genealogy of Jesus. So there is a unifying event that we are all moving toward. Okay, and before we started this podcast, we talked about the path.
That's right.
Okay. Now, a lot of individuals like to think or like to believe that because you are Christian, because you are African Hebrew Israelite, because you are a Sunni or a Sufi, and I'm a Moorish American, that we are on different paths. That's not true. There's only one Allah, and Allah is to be found in the same place for each and every last one of us. So if we are journeying towards Allah, it doesn't matter that you call him Yah or Jehovah. It don't matter what you call him. If you believe that Allah favors a noise, then something is wrong with your thinking.
Islam.
Something is wrong with your thinking. So we are all on the same path. And like we pointed out, we just in different caravans. We just not all traveling together. We are not all at the same point along the way.
That's
foolish. There's one path to God. Islam.
It's fantastic. Fantastic foolishness, I tell you. I remember somebody, this is what happens when we take things literally. And before the brother, at least on my screen, disappeared. I don't know if it's a brother or sister. I'm not sure. There's no disrespect intended. There's a brother, and I guess it's the letters SECRETO. And that was at 7:55 p.m. And he or she said, just follow the 10 commandments. I want to address that. That's really a good point. And I want to address that so that we can understand what it is that the science of the Moors does for us. But indeed, back to what you were just saying, Penitent Bay, indeed, a lot of times in our finite stages of mind, because vanity is what I call a hell of a drug, and it's placing a lot of value in that which is truly of very little value. And while you're in the middle of placing value in that which is of little value, you cannot be tending to that which is of greatest value. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali instructs that the heart of man cannot tend at once to too many things. So that means the heart of man cannot tend at once to two things. All right. And since there are only two things in all the world, the one is truth and the other is falsehood. Simple and plain, while you're tending to the falsehood, you cannot tend and pay proper attention to the truth. Okay, and so vanity is the act of placing value, such as your attention. That's your value. This is your currency. Whatever you've gotten into, it was because you paid attention, and maybe you paid attention to the wrong thing, and you were more of a consumer than an investor, but you paid your attention. And so when you're paying that kind of currency into something, you're saying that depreciates in value, but you find value in it. It's called vanity. It's called being subject to vain activities or empty activities, worthless activities, things that don't give you a return on the investment. All right. And so you're not replenishing the fountain that is putting forth your very life force. Okay. And this is why unrest, misery, and death is usually the compensation. And so a lot of times people think, of course, that Allah has favorites. In their vanity, they believe Allah has favorites. And the thing is that we're failing to consider, what is it that I haven't considered? We're failing to understand, what is it that I might not understand? Even though Allah has blessed us with remembrance and we can recall a time where we thought we understood and then learned a lesson that showed us that we really didn't. So even though we have debunked the theory that our understanding is just concrete and set in stone, all right? Even though we've debunked that hypothesis, rather, okay, we still find ourselves at times in the current moments thinking that the understanding I have gives me reason not to even consider anything else, especially if I find some finite type of thing about you annoying, like you don't pray the way I do. Yeah, but the order to pray came prior to how to do it. The order to pray came prior to how to do it. You see what I mean? And so a lot of times we're arguing over things that we don't have a true clue about, and that causes us to be vain. We hold value in a thing that doesn't have as much value as the unity, doesn't have as much value as the underlying principle. And for example, and not saying that it doesn't have value, what I'm about to go into, but I just want to make an example about certain things as it pertains to like the usefulness of the Moorish science in this day and time. The brother or sister, the individual, the seeker after truth, tiller of the soil, Secreto, I think it might be pronounced, says, just follow the 10 commandments. And by the word just, it seems as though you're saying something very simple and plain. Just follow the 10 commandments. Indeed. Now, when in first, what is this? 1 Corinthians 13:11, it says something kind of similar to when I was a child. I walked as a child, talked as a child, reasoned as a child. But when I became a man, I put childish ways behind. All right, that becoming, or that coming to be, that arriving at manhood is a matter of study and works. And so it's a matter of us learning how to truly feed ourselves with the truth, learning how to extract the underlying meanings of things so that we can truly enjoy the benefits of the vital nutrition that's within things. So, for example, to a lot of people, and I'm talking about the usefulness of Moorish science here, what it has assisted me in doing so that I can feed myself better. When you look at the 10 commandments, okay, and now I'm going to read this in one way prior to me finding some initiation in the Moorish science, and then I'll read it very simply in another way after me coming into the Moorish science. And when I say read, I mean I'm going to go in here, okay? The 10 commandments. Number 1, thou shalt have no gods before me. Okay, now this right here, first of all, you have to contemplate the implication of relativity. In other words, simple and plain, don't have any God before me. Whoever me is, don't have any gods before that. Careful. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to contemplate the implication and relativity of this. Okay, for a Moorish American Muslim, God means the ruler of the land. Okay, and a lot of times those who are handing out the information, you know, they can put a twist on things that doesn't serve to feed the people. When we're saying me, who's speaking? Who do you understand to be speaking? The Moorish Science Temple of America, you know, I mean, it is the great God, and we're talking about Allah. This right here, the 10 Commandments, and for the record, I'm agreeing with the individual that said just follow the 10 Commandments. All right. So first and foremost, let me back it up a little bit. First and foremost, you see 10. In mathematics, we understand that 1 is what there is. That's the unity. The 0 is the cipher. It's within the circle. All right. I am the circle, and the one within me is the great God Allah. And so when you're telling me to follow the 10 commandments, you're telling me to follow the laws of the great God within me. More science has me to entertain that like that. And when I'm entertaining things, you know what I'm saying, entertaining those types of meaning, I'm feeding off of things that have a different nutritional value. Okay. Number 2, thou shalt not, number 1, thou shalt have no God, have no other gods but before me. There is but one God, Allah, the author, creator, governor of the worlds, almighty, eternal, and comprehensible. And there is something to be considered when you're saying these things. Number 2, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. There's a lot of arguments about this. But when we're talking about image, that's the same word used when we're talking about man being created in the image and after the likeness of the great God Allah. But what we understand once you start digging into the more science, what gets awakened on the soul plane is what image and likeness even is. Before you start living according to a law, understand what the words are, what the demand is. The image and likeness means made in the nature. That's the image. And likeness means you also have the ability to act according to that nature. So when we're saying put no other image before me, in other words, you are not to act beside yourself. You have a divine nature in you, and you are not to act beside that nature. Now, the religious path that you're on is how you act according to that nature. Okay. Number 3, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. First, you have to understand the name. The word name and the word nature is the same thing.
Islam.
And so you should not. So if you're properly considering the nature of the great God within yourself, all right, to take it in vain means to put something of more value, you know what I mean, put some, or to find more value in something other than that nature within yourself. Okay. And so what we're ending up doing here is when you do such a thing, is you're selling yourself. Sure. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. And the reason being is because the Moorish science will awaken you to the fact that a day, your life is but a day.
Islam.
Your life is a day.
Islam.
We don't set aside one day, literally, and decide that that'll be the holy day. Holy means dedicated to the works of Allah.
Islam.
Holy means dedicated to the works of Allah. Back in ancient times, if you just go into the Bible and you look, they started talking about days prior to the heavenly bodies being put in the heavens, which is what man uses. We use the movements of the heavenly bodies to dictate what a day even is. But days were being spoken of prior to the heavenly bodies being put there. A day is a period of development. So when we're talking about a day, we're talking about your life. And we're talking about the Sabbath, we're talking about that phase of development in which you, that which was made in the image and the likeness of the great God Allah, came into a physical form. Make sure that every single moment is a holy moment, aka every moment is a moment dedicated to the will and the works of the great God Allah. That's how you keep the day holy. That's the Sabbath. And when we're talking about it rests with man after the 6th day he rested. In other words, the upkeep of the law rests on the shoulders of the will of man. That's the Sabbath. Every single moment, every day is the Sabbath. Islam. And so these types of things. So when we're talking about obeying just obey the 10 commandments, indeed. But do you know what the commandments are? Because we're not talking about literally just 10 things. The law of Allah is but one. All things are one. You see what I mean? So we have to gain a higher understanding of these things so that we can elevate ourselves beyond this moment. And the Moorish science serves to do such things.
Islam. 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 We got the brother. Hey there, brother Barnes here with us, live on location.
Islam. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2.
We in
We in it. Islam, loud and clear. Hey, look, boy. So the United States is celebrating their annual Labor Day. And so praise be to Allah that the Asiatic Muslims of Northwest and Mexico gets to receive benefits of such a celebration of the United States. Okay. And so I'm out here at work, but it's leisure time. It's like they ready to send us on home on about our race. So I get to politics and demonstrate and build with you boys here. And man, praise Allah, honestly, to my prophet, Noble Drew Ali, I want to go in. Because when you start talking about the Shabbat and you start speaking about these days, and I understand why we have these references in our one-on-ones about, the days, there's only 7 days. And so even to get into the aspect of the holy day, when the brother broke down the definition, another meaning for the word holy is a day that's set apart. Right, the word holy can go back to the Canaanite language as Kodesh, and that word means to set apart. Okay, and so us being the Kodesh people, the set apart people who had a Kodesh prophet, a set apart prophet, right? I can't pick up and put down. We got to be set apart every day. Islam. And even stepping into the idea of the Sabbath and then the laws of Moses. First off, the 10 Commandments is, it's a conglomerate, it's a consolidated effort of the various other rules and regulations that is in the Torah. Okay, what they say, it was 314 or something like that. 314, 314 laws in the Torah. They say.
Is it Islam?
No, 613. They say it's 613 laws in the Torah. That's what the scholars say. And so if you add that up in Gematria, and then even with divine mathematics, right, number science, 6 plus 1 plus 3, that will equal 10, a consolidated 10 commandments. Okay? And then we can also see that same model and makeup used in what the Prophet Ali gave us with our divine constitution and bylaws. which is an aspect of the Ten Commandments. Like it's like the Ten Commandments, but what comes beyond that? We have our chapter 25, our covenant of Asiatic nations. 2 plus 5 is 7. So if you can see that parallel contrast, right, how these laws are being made up, like you'll be able to know that we are tapped into the ancient times for sure. And then to finalize the Sabbath, according to the Judaism, it is a meeting place of Allah. The Sabbath is a place, praise Allah for our brother Chad. Now we see your brother magnificent. It's wrong. The Sabbath is a time where you separate yourself from the other aspects of the world. You come and you go within yourself and you are meeting with your spiritual wife, your spiritual bride, right? And it's that energy that you can tap into with that remembrance of Allah, that remembrance of Yah, right? And that is why the Sabbath is so important. And it also represents the holy day. It represents the mind Moors. It represents your seventh chakra, right? Your crown, etc. So just giving that brief piece, Moors coming in here, honors for the platform. Peace and love. I yield the floor back over.
Islam.
I know you see the brother. His Majesty, the magnificent El. Brother Honorable Chairman.
Absolutely, I see that more right there. He see that link in the chat too. He could jump up on the stage and talk about the science of the Moorish people.
Yeah.
Islam, absolutely. There go the sister K Bay. Islam.
Hey.
You know, when we start talking about the Sabbath, the holy day. So the Prophet Noble Ali, he teaches us, it's in the law. All right, he say Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Okay, then he tells us, he said, Friday is the day on which man was formed in flesh, and it was on Friday when he departed out of flesh. So a couple days ago, Mamo Hornbuckle Bay posted on Facebook. He said Friday is the only day. He said so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday do not exist. So a whole lot of Moors was like, man, you know, what are you talking about? So one more, he at me in his comment, like Brother Maurice Pennington Bay, man, come get the memo. So when I see the post, immediately when I seen the post, I knew exactly what the Mo was demonstrating. But what I said to those Moors was this: why don't somebody ask him what he means? You see, because the science of the Moorish people, the science, all right. So the Sheikh at Wazir told me this years ago. The Sheikh at Wazir said that the Prophet Noble Ali made this the Moorish Science Temple of America, because the science is what keeps us from becoming superstitious. It's what keeps us from becoming spooky. And then throughout my own research, what I learned was religion to our ancient ancestors was the highest science. It was the highest science. Religion. Within the scope of religion is where they studied psychology, it's where they studied biology, it's where they studied anatomy, it's where they studied, you know, how do man, you know, interact with other life forms, you know, how does it affect the physiology of man, his interaction with other life forms, with other living things, you know, be it food, be it water, be it just things that he passed by. You know, this was science. And we always acknowledge the fact, you know, that our people were highly intelligent. They were geniuses, as a matter of fact. You know, you have ones who talk about, you know, lost civilizations of people who had supernatural intellect. Their supernatural intellect took the form of their religion. It was their religious systems, you know, and the science within that religious system that we look today and say that was supernaturally intelligent. It set them apart from the rest of civilization in the past and in the present. and possibly into the future. You know, this is Moorish science. This is what Moorish science does. Moorish science is something that we use no matter what we are doing, no matter where we are in life. We do it according to Moorish science. You know, we do it in the way that allows us to be the most effective. In the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, in the chapter, The Soul of Man, it says that thinking, understanding, reasoning, and willing are the actions of the soul. They are not the essence of the soul, but they are the actions of the soul. So I never forget when I first read that chapter. You know, we used to have chapter of the week. We used to have chapter of the week where we would study one particular chapter all week. And then at Holy Day service, we would hear the Moors demonstrate on that one particular chapter. And then we would move on to the next chapter. We're doing the chapter of the week, the chapter, The Soul of Man. We broke down what does thinking mean? How is thinking done? Okay. What is the product of thinking effectively? Okay. What is understanding? What does it mean? How is it done? Okay. What is reasoning? What does it mean? How is it done? What is willing? What does it mean? How is it done? These concepts we had to internalize so that we could come to embody. So we could come to embody the meaning of these things, right, so that we could better and be most effective at the maintenance and the utilization of what God gave us. Because remember that our science is the true economy of human life. That's what it says in the chapter of religion. All right. It says that our religion is the true economy of human life. You know, it's us using the natural resource, the most natural resource, according to the word of Allah. Remember that the Quran we have is the revealed word of Allah. Okay. So when we start talking about the most natural resource, he said that Islam, the nature in which he had created man. So Islam is a resource to us. All right. It's a whole body of knowledge. It's those things that we believe is true. Now, with that being the case, Islam, throughout the course of time and even to this day, has been called and is called by many names. Islam, many names. Because Islam is the religion of peace. It means peace. Okay, there are many. We see the after Hebrew Israelite brothers, shalom, shalom alaikum, peace. Hotep, peace. Nirvana, peace. And if your religion was just not simply called peace, the object of your religion or the goal and the aim of your religion was to help manifest and to bring about peace amongst those who practice. All right? So when we talk about the science of the Moorish people, it is what allows for us to generate the most effective outcome whenever we push ourselves forward toward whatever we want. Listen, Moors, I have to qualify this. When we push ourselves forward toward whatever aim, whatever goal, whatever object that we as individuals have for ourselves, our family, and the people and the things that we love. Because as an individual, I am here to tell you, you have a right to the things that you desire, the things that you want. You have a right to see the people who you love in their most healthiest condition, being in the best, most prosperous position that they could be in. All right? Religion. Religion is an event that we live in and we working towards to be again at one with God. Religion. To bind back to our source, to go back to where we came from. So our religious institutions, everything, all the practices within our religious institutions are tailor-made and designed for its practitioners, wherever they're found in the universe, to ultimately make it to that one event that we all desire. Okay? The one event that we all desire to, again, one day be one with Allah, to get back to where we came from. That is the point of the religion. And the science of the Moorish people is the methodology used in order to get there. Islam. I mean, you know, all praise be to Allah, again, for your portion, brother. Hey, you know, sometimes I get caught up. I'm glad that you put the big screen on and they couldn't see me, because I had to get the pencil and paper. You know what I mean? It's a blessing to be able to sit in these circles and actually learn from one another. This, you know, a lot of people use terminology, but when you're talking about building,
when you sitting with your family, because that's what I like to call them. I don't really get down with the word friend too much unless it's amongst those who understand the deeper meaning. You know what I mean? My goal is to be a friend to humanity, but the loose use of that is something else. But when you're sitting amongst those who are of like minds, and you're building, that really means to set forth by degrees and work out the possibilities of man. And in doing so, we can establish certain types of character. And when I say certain types, I mean specifically the type that is pleasing in the sight of Allah. So honors, brother, for your portion. I wanted to say, and to camel back off of that, when you're talking about Moorish science, Moorish science is an art. It is an art. It's one of the arts. It is an art which serves to correct, mold, and perfect the mental faculties and assists in the development of moral character. It is something that serves to correct, mold, and perfect the mental faculties. So you're not just thinking, a donkey thinks too.
Islam.
Okay? A monkey thinks too.
Islam.
And I can keep going with all of the beasts because these are thinking things. And I'm not speaking down about these things because these are deities made flesh. Okay.
Yes,
however, they are not reasonable to your degree. Okay. And so we're not just talking about thinking, but we're talking about thinking in a way that serves the purpose of man, that serves the functions of man, that helps man to build the temple of perfected man. And when we're saying perfected man, we're saying that temple, aka that mindset through which you can perfect the attributes of Allah. Well, somebody say, well, hold on, what you trying to say? Allah isn't perfect. Well, I mean, we're not talking about from the finite standpoint. Okay, from the finite standpoint, someone might mean with flaws and things of that nature. When we're talking about when we're going to raise our thinking to a higher level here, when we're saying perfect, it's kind of like when Allah told the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that on this day I have perfected Islam for you. It wasn't Allah telling the Prophet Muhammad that on this day I made something that wasn't perfect, now perfect. The great God Allah doesn't make things that are flawed. So we're not talking about perfect in that sense. Perfect perfect should be understood to be a verb in this aspect. So anytime you are manifesting the attributes of the great God Allah, you are perfecting the attributes of the great God Allah, meaning you are making them manifest. So when Islam came into that physical form, at least in that book of clear signs for man, it was known as being perfected. It has been made manifest. So if you would bring forth the attributes of the great God Allah, or perfect the attributes of the great God Allah, bring them into manifest, meaning make it so that they are witnessable. Because everybody's something until it's time for them to show and prove. Everybody's patient until you tell them that until you put them in a situation where they got to show patience. Right? Everybody can be Moorish Pennant and Bay. I'm gonna tell you right now, you daggone right I can bench press 500 pounds. As long as you don't put a weight bench in front of me with 500 pounds on it, I mean, that's what it is. But Allah is the truth. Allah is the truth. And Allah does not live in the noise of tongues. So just because I said it don't mean that it's so. So when we're talking about perfecting something, we're talking about showing and proving. We're not just talking about standing on the corners of the way and pointing in a certain direction. We're talking about leaving footprints clearly cut. That's called perfecting. In the Moorish Science Temple of America, we use a science. All right. We have institutionalized information, meaning we've taken it in, organized it, formed a body beautiful out of it, and assist in placing that temple on the minds of different believers. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali would refer to placing those temples on the minds of believers as the Prophet having a charter to issue to every state, etc.
Islam.
All right, so we assist in your establishment of the Moorish Science Temple, which is a mentality out of which you can perfect the attributes, the characteristics of the great God. That's what this science does. It helps you to correct your mindset. It helps you to mold a new mindset, and it helps you to now start to produce the attributes, the will of Allah, the harmonies of life out of that mindset. Islam?
Islam.
Islam, let me get in there just a little bit. Mic check. I'm making sure y'all still hear me.
Islam. Your mic got a lot of bogus feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing something, right? Sounds like a video game kind of.
Yeah, that's something.
Echoing.
Islam.
Islam, how about now?
I don't know what's going on.
Still there. I don't know if it's. I'm gonna mute myself for a second. Now I'm back. Can you hear me?
I might have to move around, man. Islam.
Okay.
Islam, bro. Islam. That more.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's in a factory, I believe, working. All praise be to Allah for brother efforts, man. You know what I mean? No matter where they are, they'll tune in.
Islam. Hey, one thing about the Moorish Science Temple of America, and let's get this understood. We Moorish Americans, we talking about the science of the Moorish people. I wish there were some other brothers or sisters, who would like to, come on the podcast and demonstrate from about their own particular practices, because again, we do not have a monopoly on this. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali divinely prepared these instructions and these lessons. He didn't recreate the wheel. He didn't write a spiritual holy book for us. He brought us a collection of lessons that were already established and proven to be effective and to work. So when the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, issued out the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and originally the 102s, that went along with those instructions, those, they didn't just, get snatched out of thin air. A lot of Moors, and a lot of Asiatics, they take issue with that. They say, well, the Prophet plagiarized this, he plagiarized that. No, that's not. It's just not necessary. Only a fool is always beginning. And one thing about the Holy Quran in the chapter of religion, it tells us that Allah ruleth and directeth with infinite wisdom. So today in Sunday school, we was building on that. How is it possible to rule and direct with infinite wisdom? Okay, well, in chapter 2 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, it tells us that we measure time by cycle ages. We measure time by cycle ages, and one of the benefits of measuring time by cycle ages is to be able to rule and direct with infinite wisdom, because now all of the experiences, all of the scientific research, all of the things that have proven themselves to be true or false that happened or occurred in the past are still with you today in the present. And using and utilizing those things with a new mind equipped with this new knowledge, you are capable of creating or mapping out a future that you could walk forward into. So this is how Allah rules and directive with infinite wisdom. Remember that because of his providence, there is no contingency. He don't need no contingency plan. He don't need the contingency, because he already know what's going to happen because of what he's doing. All right. So we measure time by cycle ages. Our ancestors, they would measure time, that way, way beyond their own carnal lifespan, because time never was. They were not concerned about, what, can I get the job done now while I'm living? No, they planned. They would, a father would begin a work that he know that his great grandchild would finish. And he was all right with that. And he worked diligently every day towards that goal and that objective, because he knew that he would again be one with Allah and to be able to observe that work from wherever he was.
Islam.
This is the science of the Moorish people. And when we start talking about, well, why is it, or how does it connect to the spiritualities of life? There's no real thing called separate church and state. That is a foolish, delusional illusion. It's foolish, for one. Only a delusional so-called leader would even think that it was possible to implement such a plan within a nation of people, humans, who all have spirits. You understand me? Who are all spirits first. Now check this out. We are more spirit than we are anything else. all of the things that are really worth having, that we really want to keep company with, are spirits more than they are anything else.
Islam.
And you want to separate.
You know,
want to separate. Come on.
I mean, to the defense of the church, I maybe it works well for earthly salvation. I'm not really sure.
I'm not talking about the church,
right? No, I know exactly what you mean.
Governments,
exactly. You'll see now what I was just saying. But for the Moorish science, we understand that a government separate in any shape, form, or fashion from the Creator, in any shape, form, or fashion, in any statute, code, rule, regulation, or law at all. Anytime you have stamped it in stone that there's a separation of that which is to govern and the Almighty Governor,
Islam.
Well, I don't know what to say now after that. You ever point out something and then you just get stuck. Like, you mean to tell me that 2 plus 2 is 17? My grandfather used to. Hey, listen, he used to get stuck on stuff like that. Whenever I did something foolish, he would just lose his mind. I told you not to run through the house, right? Yeah, but you ran through the house, right? Yeah. But I'm gonna say something about the Moorish science, because I wanted to camel back off what you were. The spirit of what it seemed like you were doing a moment ago, which is kind of, clarifying some things also about Moorish science. And I'll do so with the devil's advocate question. These Moors done rewrote the Quran. What is wrong with them? They done. They don't rewrote it. No. See, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't rewrite a Quran. We didn't do away with the Holy Quran of Mecca, which we have as the revealed word of Allah. We actually get our power from the Holy Quran of Mecca, and we have high regards for the Rasulullah Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Okay, we didn't replace anything. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and I mean this in no light way, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America in this new era of time now is a preparatory book. It is a preparatory book. If you look in chapter 23 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and where it is the holy instructions for thy children. And, in ancient times, a child was a neophyte, an initiate, a student, a beginner, okay? Even if you were new to a certain mindset, you were a child now at certain degrees. And instruction number 3, it starts off, it says, prepare him early with instruction and season his mind with the maxim of truth.
That's right.
When your nation has been proclaimed into existence in 1928, and it hasn't even been 100 years, it's early, children.
Islam.
All right, it's early. All right, and so where it says here, prepare him, because notice I said that the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America was a preparatory book.
That's right.
For the children. All right, so prepare him early with instruction and season his mind with the maxims of truth. And when we're talking about seasoning, we're saying make the mind fit. To season something is to make it fit for use with the maxims of truth. So when we're talking about preparing something, what the prophet has done with the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America in this new era of time now is taking the essence, some of the essence of the Holy Quran of Mecca, which we have as the revealed word of Allah. He's taken the essence of that and organized it in a fashion that would suit us in the new era of time now. So we haven't changed Islam. Islam is the truth, and the truth is that which changes not. That's not what we're proclaiming. And we're not proclaiming that what the Prophet Muhammad brought, peace and blessings be upon him, was not good enough. What we're saying is that Islam, because of the finite mind of man, has to come in stages. It has to come in phases. Not because it is limited, but we are limited in our finite understandings and in our human folly and foolishness, where we believe we've got it down pat with human understandings and human knowledge. okay, which is but blindness and folly. So the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has taken the essence, the potencies. You know, you can extract some potencies from certain plants around here. Some of our botanists and things of that nature, they understand that. You can extract the concentration of it, and then you put it in a form that is palatable and more useful. When I say useful, I mean can be of good when presented in this fashion in this new era of time now. And then I want to yield the floor after this point. Understand something. War has not changed. In any shape, form, or fashion, war has not changed, but so that we can contemplate what's going on in here between man and his lower self from a war standpoint or a conflict. Let me make an example outside of the self. Outside of the self in these streets and these other countries and things of that nature, war hasn't changed. They're still battling and using some sort of arms. But if someone came today, I'm talking about the best of swordsmen, Maurice Pennington Bay, the best of swordsmen were to come today, and the best wielder of the most mighty shields. I'm talking about he got the same shield Captain America got. Right? He came today teaching us how to use that type of sword and a shield like they used in more ancient times. I don't care how good you are. You seen the movie, what was it, Achilles or something? I don't know. I don't care how good you are. You're dead at the speed of a bullet.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so what that means is, although war hasn't changed, okay, especially the interior war, although it hasn't changed, the methods in which we use in order to be more effective in gaining or securing a victory, because the victory of man is sure. So if the victory of man is sure, and that is a promise from the great God Allah through our forefathers by his prophet, namely Noble Drew Ali, if the victory is sure, wouldn't he send a prophet in your day and time to give you the tools that it takes to actually fight the foe? Islam. So this is what the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America is. It is a preparatory book. It is that which fills you with instructions and things that you can use in order to fight the good fight. And it is made out of the same old time religion that has ever been and ever will be. Islam, I yield.
Islam.
Hey, Islam. Let's run this mic check back. Mic check, mic check.
Now, still, you got something going on with you, but it might. Let me see. Let me find. Hey, tell your mic.
The mic check is clear now.
Oh, that's
there
better.
you go. Islam.
Yeah.
Hey, you gotta. Hey, listen, Moore. You gotta tell your mic to love instead of hate, Moore.
And look here, you little electrical things. Y'all gotta learn to love instead of hate, Islam.
Yeah.
It's back at it now. It's doing it again.
So, it's doing it again.
Yeah, you might have to remove it. Is it too close to your phone? Let's stop the moment ago.
It's off. It's off. How about now? How are we doing now? Islam. Maybe a little bit. Peace and love.
They got the more in the Matrix, man.
Yeah. Boy, you was about to say something. Hey, listen, you was about to say something to change the world.
You had to.
You know.
Love. You know something? When we talk about the Moorish Science Temple of America, all right, I want to share something. I remember the first time I read the Bible. Okay, one of my oldest and dearest and nearest friends is my brother Sam. So we were shorties growing up together, and Sam had moved out to Minnesota, you know. And I was about 12 years old, and I was talking to Sam on the phone, and you know, he had started to go to church with his family out in Minnesota, and he told me, he said, "Man, you should read the Bible." He was like, "Man, read the book of Revelations." All right. So now I never read the Bible before, you know. So Sam then told me to go read the book of Revelations. Sam, if you're listening, don't you ever tell somebody who ain't never read the Bible before to start off with the book of Revelation. So I went and read the book of Revelation, and it scared the crap out of me, you know, because, you know, the way I had been brought up to really, you know, to take church serious, even though we didn't go to church. You know, my mom didn't make us go to church. I went to church sometimes with my grandmother, sometimes with my friends and stuff. But I did not grow up in, like, I'm not the Moor who comes from a Christian background. I don't. You know, my first interaction with religion was Islam. You know, I was a member of the Nation of Islam, you know, as a child. And that was my first interaction with religion outside of my few visits to church. But anyway, so Sam gets me to read the book of Revelations. And, the book of Revelations, it talks about, how man is going to suffer due to, their sinful ways. And it was saying things like, we was going to be suffering and God was going to be punishing us so bad and we would be praying for a respite and praying for God to stop us, but to stop, causing the suffering. But he didn't, stop the suffering. It said, and then we would curse God. We would be tortured so bad that we would then curse God. And it doesn't separate the people when it starts talking about these calamities. It just say that this is what's going to happen, that, the people is going to be cussing God, they're going to be tortured and all this. And I never forget, I went in my mom's room and I told my mom, I say, Mama, I say, man, we know the world gonna end, it's coming to an end right now, and we gonna all get punished, and we gonna be suffering, and we gonna be cussing God, and this, that, and third. I did not know what the freak was going on.
That's right.
When I first read the Holy Quran, the revealed word of Allah, I was so lost at so many points within the Quran that I just gave up trying to understand it. And then I joined the Moorish Science Temple of America. All right.
That's right.
Be studious to his interests. When I joined the Moorish Science Temple of America, I put down everything. Before I joined the temple, for 8 months before I joined the Moorish Science Temple of America, all I did was study the doctrine of the Moorish Science Temple of America, study Quran from sun up until I closed my eyes at night. I was reading the Quran, reading and studying the 101s, reading the Moorish literature pamphlets every day. Okay. Once I got some foundation of this up under my feet, and I opened up that Bible, I went straight to the book of Revelations. Intentionally, I went there because I knew that I was going to understand. I knew I was going to see something that I was not able of seeing at first. And sure enough, it was clear to me. Starting from the beginning. What is there in the beginning? See, we are taught in the Moorish Science Temple of America to study the Holy Quran from cover to cover. We study every period. We study every semicolon. All these things mean stuff. They all have a purpose. You understand what I'm saying? In our own personal growth and development and our unfolding process, we need to pay attention to everything that's happening around us. So we study this way. In the beginning of the book of Revelation, it said that John was on the island of Patmos, and he was what? He was in spirit.
That's right.
See, now I've been intelligent enough to go and look up words that I don't understand. We prior to coming to the Moorish Science Temple of America, we would read things and see words we don't know, and we just keep on going. Like it was some way possible that we could comprehend this stuff we read, and we don't know the definition of the words we read. Hey, last week, what the brother chairman said about that library. So I go and I get a Bible concordance. I get a Strong's Bible concordance, and I go to
Brother Chairman was hard on him last week.
Listen, I go to it and I look, and it said that in spirit, when John said that he was in spirit, he was meditating. Yeah. That's what it means, that he was meditating. So now it qualifies everything that happens after that. It all happened in his head. It all happened in his mind. These were all things that he's seen within his own meditation. Okay, so now when we are meditating, what is it that we are observing when we are meditating? We are observing the self. Okay, when you go within, what's within? The only thing within is you and Allah. Okay, so now he's going inside of himself. He is seeing the consequence of a duality. Do right, do wrong. But ultimately knowing his own paths, all right? Because what the Quran tells us in the chapter, the soul of man, it said that health, vigor, and proportion are the greatest blessings to thy external part. And it said what health, he said the greatest of these is health. And what health is to the body, even that is honesty unto thy soul.
Islam.
So now when we are honest about ourselves, about where we are, because reflection is the business of man. Nobody goes into business except for to make profit. We going into business to make profit. So we reflecting in order to make ourselves better so that when we move forward understanding the past, where we came from. We measure time by cycle ages. All of this is science. Moorish science, y'all. Okay?
That's right.
So now when we be honest with ourselves, so when Pennington Bay sit down and Pennington Bay start to think about Pennington Bay have to be honest and say, well, there was a time when I wasn't Pennington Bay. There was a time where if you would have asked me who I was and what I was, I would have told you straight up, man, I'm a real nigga. Real talk. I'm a real nigga.
Not a real nigga.
Listen, I would have told you, I'm a real nigga, and guess what I would have told you, man? I go hard. I play hard. Then what I would have told you. Not only do I go hard, I play hard, I ain't going for nothing. All of these things I would have said. So now when I see other people do these things, I can't act like I don't understand where they coming from. I can't act like I don't understand why they think the way they think. I can't act like I don't do that. The highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths.
That's right.
The greatest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. Now, it don't say that the greatest heights are gained sometimes. It don't say that the greatest heights can be gained or shall be gained. Now, a misunderstanding that Moors have all across Moorish America is that when I reach the lowest point in my carnal life, that the only way to go is up. That ain't true. It's a many people. It's a many people who are homeless, who have diseases, who have drug addictions, who are hungry and ain't got no money. Okay? Who don't have no loved ones. They love the people who did love them and gave up on them. There's many people that's in that state right now as we speak. And sadly, they will change forms in that state. So when the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America says that the greatest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths, that is a fact. Now we got to say the depths of what? The depths of what? Because in carnal life, many people reach great depths and they don't never attain to the highest heights. But the highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths of themselves, the ones who plumb their own soul.
That's right.
Get deep down within their own self, their own consciousness, start to reason out and start to consider and think about where they are, how they got where they are. The highest heights are gained by these individuals because in order to do that, you have to do it intentionally. You don't reach the greatest depth of yourself by accident. You have to intentionally start climbing down deep within one's own self. You got to do that intentionally. When we start demonstrating these 3-step ladders, faith, hope, and love, belief, faith, and fruition, or the 12-step ladder, obedience, modesty, gratitude, charity, temperance, prudence, justice, sincerity, diligence, benevolence, science, and religion. These ladders can not only be used for us to climb up, but we can climb down. We can take that 12-step ladder, lower it down, and take 12 steps down. We can come from the top to the bottom and go back down there so that we can always remember where we came from.
That's right.
Okay? And one who is adept at using these tools, they're going to use the tool whenever it's needed to be used. All right? So Moors, remember that. So stop telling ones, when these members come inside of the Moorish Science Temple of America with their substance abuse problems and they, suffering, and they come there because they believe that they're going to get there and find out or find something that can make their condition better. Stop telling them that the only way for them to go is up.
Islam.
Recognize that they predicament requires an urgent switching of gears, switching of paradigms. They got to switch paradigms, and it's urgent that they do it. The Prophet Noble Ali said something. He said he remembered when he was Noah. He said he remembered when he was Noah. He said he was on an ark. And when the flood came, people started beating on the door. They're trying to get in. And the Prophet Noble Ali told the people that an angel came and took the key away. So there is a such thing as too late.
That's right.
We don't teach no spookism to our people. Remember that the lower self is rich in promises. So we ain't gonna promise our people that they got forever to get right. No, you ain't got forever to get right. The science of the Moorish people is within you. You need to get to wherever you need to go, so that Moors who are qualified, or people who are qualified, be they high priests, be they sheiks, be they reverends, be they preachers, be they imams, be they mufti, be they whatever you call them. All right? Be they whatever you call them. Get to them so they can educe or educate you in how to utilize the science of the Moorish people.
That's long.
Right? Just because you got a nationality card, just because you have proclaimed your nationality within the Moorish Science Temple of America, be it lawful. All right? Please hurry up and do it. But that don't make you saved. That do not make you saved. That does not make you prepared either for the unnumbered foes that you will face. The unnumbered foes that you must overcome. Okay? You have to overcome. And just saying that you're a Moorish man, just because you like to wear fez, it's a whole lot. Man, listen, let me tell y'all something that I've been discovered about a lot of Moors. You know, Moabs and Moabites. It's a whole lot of us that just like to wear fez and turbans. You know, we don't really want to do the work. We don't really want to make our meetings on time. We don't really want to go through the process of learning and unfolding.
That's right.
We don't want to do that. But we love to wear fez. Man, as a matter of fact, you're going to see us with our fez on all the time. You're going to see us with our turban on all the time.
Even in the alley.
Even in the alley. And you're going to find us standing around on our meeting periods all the time. The meetings is important. All right?
Islam. More, you know, when you said something about the highest heights and greatest depths, and just to square it a little bit also with the fact that the Moorish science can help to remove a mind from the superstitions and things of that nature. You know, when you don't have an understanding nor a way of consciously establishing or expanding your understanding, you go for fear tactics. And so I can introduce information to you in a manner where your foundation is set atop of fear, you know, which is not a knowing, and it's not a true awareness, but it's just something based off of the fact that you don't know. And a superstition is established by that, you know, a belief in that which you have no reasoning, no true reasoning to believe. And what people don't understand is that belief dictates behavior. And since your actions are supposed to be all for the in accord with the will of Allah, you have a problem when your beliefs are off. So, you know, where it says here in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the master spoke. He said in chapter, I believe this is chapter 13. It said the highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. And as the brother Maurice Penitent Bay said, you know, just because you fall doesn't mean that now you're just bound to rise, right? And so here is where you know, we have to contemplate the implication and the relativity. Okay, the highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. Since we don't do fear-based teaching, I'm not going to scare you into joining the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'm not going to scare you into investigating the Moorish science or the science of the Moors or the knowledge of things knowable about the self, which is really one of the highest ingredients and aspects of true wisdom, is a sensing of the powers of man himself. I'm not going to scare you into that. Do this or else. I don't compel you with those types of things, because you're supposed to only fear Allah. What I'm going to do is strive to put my words together in a fashion that might assist in guiding you to the nearest place where you can have a meeting with your Father God Allah, guiding you towards the truth. But it's not fear-based. I can tell you that there will be pains along the way. Okay, but see, today is a new era of time now, and we can't simply use these fear-based tactics. So one of the ways that you can also look at this divine instruction, Islam, peace and blessings to the sister K Glover L.
Islam.
One of the ways, and I'm going to yield the floor after this point. All right, because I have to hear the sister, the grand governess. One of the ways you can also look at this where it says the highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. Reaching the greatest depths also speaks to those who are willing to dig that low. What's way down there is the base, the foundation, aka the rock upon which man builds himself, meaning his understanding. Those who are willing to actually dig into their understandings and expand it through what the Moorish Americans call reflection, because this is the business of man. Through the art of reflection, we actually can expand our conscious awareness. So we can go from a superstitious people to thinking that the great God is some spookiness out in the clouds and the devil is some red dude with a pitchfork down in the ground. Or we can expand that to an understanding that the great God is in me. I and Allah are one. And my foe is the lower self. Then we can start to understand certain things that will lead to our behaviors being in accord with the harmonies of life. And with that, I would like to yield. I have to. I got to yield to the sister, the grand governess, K. Glover L.
Islam. All praises due to Allah, honors to His holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Man, I've been listening in the background and getting some things finished for work that I had deadlines on today. But man, y'all been going in. Y'all really have been going in, right? Speaking on the science of Moorish Americans, like, wow. When you start talking about the science of Moorish Americans, it automatically takes me to where we actually seen Prophet Noble Drew Ali step on the scene, right?
That's right.
So Prophet Noble Drew Ali steps on the scene 1913 AD. And during that time, we also see other Asiatic movements all at the same time. There was something that was going on in the 20s, because when you begin to look at all these movements, even Freemasonry, right? So when you start talking about Richard Allen, and even when they chartered that in the 1700s, y'all know that there wasn't a big boost of membership and activism until the 1920s. This is the reason why the 20s was called the Roaring 20s. All right. The Roaring 20s was about everybody getting together, coming together, and doing what needed to be done to really show the world, let the world know who we were as a people. All right. So I'm going to read a couple of organizations that was out during that time, right? So you had the Improved Benevolent Protective Order of Elks of the World, right? It was founded in 1898, and it gained a significant momentum in the 1920s. Its purpose is fraternal, social, and community service organization, providing support and assistance to African American communities. The IBPOEW remains active with lodges across the United States. The organization continues to focus on charitable works, scholarships, and youth programs. Then you have Prince Hall Freemasonry. Founded in 1784, Prince Hall. Masonry saw a resurgence in the 1920s with many new lodges forming. Purpose fraternal that promotes social, educational, and moral development. Prince Hall Masonry is a global organization with lodges across the United States and in other countries. It remains one of the most significant and influential fraternal organizations in the African American community. Alphi Alpha Fraternity, Inc., founded in 1906, expanded significantly in the 1920s. Its purpose is a fraternity dedicated to service, leadership, and the advancement of African Americans in all aspects of life. Alpha has over 730 chapters worldwide including the United States, Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean. It remains heavily involved in social justice, educational initiatives, and community service. Sigma Phi Phi fraternity, the Boule, founded in 1904, gained significant prominence in the 1920s. Its purpose, an exclusive fraternity for African American professionals aimed at leadership, development, and networking. Currently, Sigma Pi Phi has over 139 chapters and continues to be an influential network for Black professionals, providing membership, scholarships, and community service. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Inc., founded in 1911, grew significantly in the 1920s. Its purpose is a fraternity committed to the principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. Currently, Omega Psi Phi has over 750 chapters worldwide, continuing its work in mentoring, community service, and social action. Church of God in Christ, founded in 1907, solidified its national structure in the 1920s. Its purpose, a Pentecostal holiness Christian denomination, focusing on spiritual growth, social justice, and community development. Kojic is one of the largest Pentecostal denominations in the United States, with millions of members worldwide. The church has a significant presence in the United States, Africa, Europe, and Latin America, maintaining a strong focus on evangelism, education, and social outreach. Moorish Science Temple of America, established by Prophet Noble Drew Ali in 1913 AD, Newark, New Jersey, with significant expansion in the 1920s. Purpose, a religious and cultural organization promoting the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, focusing on Moorish identity of Asiatics and emphasizing self-sufficiency, spiritual growth, and civic involvement. The MSTFA has various temples across the United States and continues to be an active organization promoting Moorish identity, legal education, community service, economic empowerment within the Asiatic community. The organization also participates in international events related to Moorish heritage and identity. Islam. So all of these organizations at this time in the 1920s began to expand and grow to the point where you had them all coming together under one banner, right? And that one banner was unity.
Wow.
The banner wasn't, oh, you got to come under my organization and you got to come under my organization and you got to come under my organization, right? But the mind of us at that time was about unity and coming together for the growth and expansion of our people. Islam. We have not seen us as a people here in North America expound like that in a very, very long time. After the Roaring '20s died down, right, we forgot all about unity. So we got to get back to that mindset as Asiatics. A lot of times as Moorish Americans, we want to stay within, well, I'm a Moorish American and I can't work. It's sad. I hear more say things like they can't work with other Asiatics because they haven't proclaimed that they're Moorish Americans. We have to get back to that mindset. The mindset that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was on was about unity. Unity literally is on almost every piece of literature that Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave the Moors. Islam. So we're talking about the mindset of the Moorish Americans today, the mindset has to be unity. Unity has nothing to do with, oh, you got to come over here and be with my temple. Oh, you got to come over here and be a part of my organization. Oh, you got to come over here and you got to be a part of my thing, what I got going on. No, unity is about the basics, the fundamentals.
That's
We
right.
all have a need, which is food, clothing, and shelter, as my husband Richard Neal Bay always says. So we should be working on fulfilling those needs as a unified front. Islam and Nigel.
Islam. Islam. You know, Islam more.
Islam.
The sister has said a mouthful. You know, we have to be careful. You know, like what she was saying, that, like, you know, that description of, well, you have to join this, you have to be a part of this only, and if you're not a part of this only, then we can't reach out and we can't be missionaries. You know, my perception and of your position and my position, my perception of some sort of finite differences is greater than the command that we be missionaries, that we actually teach the word, teach the gospel, the everlasting gospel. And to that I say, you know, Moors, we have to be very careful that our beliefs and our subsequent behaviors aren't in the image and likeness of European interests.
That's
because
right.
sometimes we start to subconsciously emulate that which we act as though we are trying to come out from underneath. And it's shameful. It's not a good look, to say the least. You know what I mean? And you know, you may have heard people say things like Stockholm syndrome and things of that nature, where you actually, you know, because when you start to mimic your oppressor, that's a form of honor, that's a form of sympathy, that's a form of empathy. You see what I'm saying? And you know, if all praise is due to Allah and honors to His prophet, I don't know where emulation of the descendants of slaveholders comes in. And so when we start to see something good, because the best things in the hands of a fool may be turned to their destruction. When we start to see something as beautiful as holy and divine instructions from the last prophet in these days, not the last prophet to come.
That's right.
Prophet in these days, and we start to use those instructions and interpret them in a fashion where it leads us to believe that we are superior. That's supremacy, that's superiority. Listen, the nobility isn't in trying to be better than your brother man or sister woman. Nobility is in being a better man or woman than you were moments before the next moment, and moments before the next moment. That's nobility, is to be the best you. You know what I mean? That's superiority, and I am better than you, and this and that and the other. That would be to say that there's a part of the great God Allah that is lacking, and you're the part of the great God Allah that isn't. So you know, if it's, since there's a law that says as man unfolds, his God unfolds, you know what I'm saying? Make sure that we understand this. You have a duty to do that which is necessary, that you might bear witness to the unfolding, as opposed to be somebody that gets rolled over in those ways. You know, we have to recognize this. One part of the great God Allah cannot be greater than another part of the great God Allah, because a house divided cannot stand. This isn't reasonable. This isn't reasonable. Now, I do understand what some people are trying to say is, you know, I'm not better than you, but maybe I can be better than a circumstance that you create. I'm not better than you, but maybe I can be better than a condition that you are trying to establish. You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. However, make sure that just because you're seeing finite differences, when I say finite, I mean those things that appear on the surface, investigate. Inquire into, research, analyze, and examine, aka study these things to see what of use can be extracted. The why, out of even the worst, the wise can find means of good. These are the lessons that come out of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that teaches the science of the Moors. It teaches you to be more harmonious. It teaches so that even though there are manifest differences, I will be able to focus properly and find where there are harmonious similarities. If for no other reason, I'll just say, okay, we have separated in the world, but I remember the relation that binds me to love and unity. You know, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said the same thing in spirit. He said, to you your way and to me mine.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Allah is the best of knowers. All of these types of phraseology, all right, has an underlying spirit, you know, of humility, right? It's like, look, I don't know it all. You're doing some things that seem a little strange to me. And when I say strange, I can't recognize all of the symbology. But if what you get from it has you to behave in a manner that produces the harmonies of life, it breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. Justice, mercy, love, and right is the name of the language that believers would understand when it was spoken. What did he say? What did the prophet say? My sheep will understand my voice. That's the voice. These are the languages. Are you so caught up in formalisms that you don't understand when love, true peace, freedom, and justice are talking to you? So the Moorish science helps to break those finite chains and mend broken wires, that the flow of the harmonies of life, the flow of the everlasting gospel, you know what I mean? The flow of that which is in the image and after the likeness of the great God Allah might be continuous, right? From one living thing to another, because we are bound by that continuous cord. Islam, with that I yield.
Islam.
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 Yeah, the Moors is cooking.
Islam. See, K Club and L did that.
Islam.
We were relaxed until she came in and stepped it up.
Islam.
You know, today when we was in Sunday school, right? And we kind of spoke on it a little bit earlier in the podcast. You know, the Prophet Noble Ali uses the term membership and citizenship synonymous. The Prophet Muhammad used the term believer in citizenship synonymous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm
Corporate
saying?
citizenship. That's right.
Absolutely. So when we come in, the Prophet Muhammad tells us all. He says, keep the obligations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we are obligated to do a number of things. For one, the Prophet Muhammad told us to do what? Allah told us through the Prophet Muhammad. He said when we debate, we must do what? Debate in the best of manners.
Best of manners.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And like the brother just said, he said, to you be your way, to me be mine. This is us refusing to ever demonstrate the degree of the disagreeable. All right. We don't have we can disagree. We're going to disagree because that's just the nature of man. You know, we're going to disagree, but we're not going to adopt the attitude of the disagreeable because it violates our religion. Our obligation.
That won't be the image of our community.
Be agreeable. Exactly. All right. This is the science of the Moorish people, because what happens? We need one another. People need each other. All right. In the bands of society, people need each other. The farmers, you know, are needed by the entertainers, and the entertainers need the farmers and the school teachers and all this. We need one another. So if we all just start to be disagreeable with one another, and then we start raising our prices, you know what? I don't like that person, so I'm gonna charge them triple.
Yeah.
It violates. It's stupid though. It's stupid. So it goes back to what Mama Bay used to tell me when I was growing up. The best type of sense for you to have is some common sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's some common sense. I remember reading the Hadith, and somebody asked Bilal, what type of man was the Prophet Muhammad? Listen to what he said. See, it's a science in the Hadith. He said, my friend was a very simple person. That's all he said.
That's right.
So now moving forward, like the Prophet Noble Ali said, and he repeated something that was said by the Prophet Jesus. He said, my sheep know the sound of my voice.
That's
a stranger will not follow. So now if somebody was to come to us right now and give us this incredibly, highly, you know, vulnerable interpretation of something that the Prophet Muhammad supposedly had to say right off the muscle, we know it ain't true.
That's right.
We know it ain't true. Now, does that take away, because the Prophet Muhammad spoke in a very simple manner so that everybody can understand? I mean, he was quite naturally, he was obviously able to organize massively. The Prophet Muhammad led hundreds of thousands of people without a telephone, without Facebook, without social media. He led hundreds of thousands of people, and he couldn't read. Okay, the angel Jibril came and said, "Iqra," Well, we know for a fact that the Prophet Muhammad changed forms without ever reading. So we could say that either the Prophet Muhammad didn't do what the angel Jibril said do, or the angel Jibril wasn't telling them to read in the first place. All right?
Islam.
Now, with that being the case, there's a science in simplicity. Okay? The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America says that truth is what? It's simple. It's real simple. So I want to say to all of the Asiatic people, to all of the Moorish brethren and sisters, we must move forward and be simply Moorish. All right? Just be simply Moorish. It's way easier. It's way easier than trying to impose some other identity on yourself.
That's right.
The fact of the matter is that we all descend from Allah. We come from God. Okay? Now, if that's your thing and you want to study, your ancestry, in between where you are now and back to where you came from, if that's what you want to do, then fine. See, that is Islam. I like to consider myself an amateur historian as well. But always remember, Moors, that your most ancient ancestor is Allah. Now, this is the time, because we've been on here for 1 hour and 51 minutes. I got to be remembering to do this stuff. Like,
right?
Share, subscribe.
That's right.
Talk about it. I mean, if you believe that the master students of the professor Drew, because that's who we are.
That's right.
You understand me? We are some of the master students of the professor Drew. All right.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a monopoly on that. and we would love to see many more join our ranks.
That's right.
You understand me? Come on. As a
Let's
matter of fact,
go.
you ain't got to come. You ain't got
a lot of work.
You ain't
got
to tell us about it. Just start doing the work. Hey, what Jesus said when the disciples came back and said, "Man, we found ones casting out devils, not in your name. Man, should we get our spoils to go get them? No. They ain't against us. They with us."
Right.
So just because they ain't members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, but they uplifting for all of humanity.
That's right.
So they with us.
Right.
Well, just because they don't call themselves Muslims, well, they believe in only one God. They pray. They fast. They demonstrate charitable action. They turn within often. You don't have to watch them do it. Right. They ain't doing it for you to watch them do it. All right? That means they Muslims. Just because they don't call themselves Muslims. When you read in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, they said the Muslims of India. I guarantee you that not one of them individuals who was in India called themselves a Muslim. But the Prophet Jesus acknowledged them for who they were.
That's right.
He acknowledged them for their works and their deeds.
That's right.
You understand me? We are the Moorish people. Being Moorish people, that means that we are Moabites.
Come on now.
Being a Moabite means that you are a child of God, simply put. That is the actual definition.
That's right.
All right? There ain't no need to be trying to figure out nothing else. There is no higher learning than that when it comes to your own history. Okay? So when the Prophet Noble Jew Ali started talking about that we are the descendants of the ancient. He said ancient. He ain't talking about no jokers from yesterday.
Come on now.
We live on concrete and mud. We drink water that's 13 billion years old. The water that you're drinking 13 billion years old. You want to tell me about some stuff that happened yesterday, 2,000 years ago? That was yesterday.
Right.
We are an ancient people. Okay? So if they ain't writing books talking about the ancient people and demonstrating the science of the ancient people and practicing it, then stop taking their words for gospel.
That's right.
Because the greatest gospel is goodwill to men and peace on earth. The highest learning is the attainment of virtue. This is what the Moorish is demonstrating. The best thing that I could be is a faithful member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, because that means that I want for my brothers and my sisters what I want for myself. All right? And the science of the Moorish people helps us to achieve this object. Having what I want for my people. Because guess what I want? I ain't gonna front y'all, man. I want everything, man. Give me the work. Everything in it. Yeah, everything in it. Straight up, man. When we used to walk them yards, all we talked about is what we thought about was getting out and using more science in order to make not just our conditions better. Because when he found the object of his search, he was standing on a 12-step ladder. He had a compass, square, and an axe in his hand. And what he was doing, he was engaged in building dwellings for the sons of men. This is what we do.
That's
so
right.
We wasn't just, talking about how we will make our own conditions better, but we were talking about how we will make the conditions of all our people.
For the world. That's right.
That's right. We don't do this
world, Craig.
For the world. We've been here for 2 hours. Ain't nobody paying us to do this. Ain't nobody paying us to do this.
That's right.
But guess what? We will receive our reward.
It's
because the law says through his property that a servant is worthy of his hire. So we will receive our reward. Absolutely. Islam.
Is
it time, y'all? Is it time?
That's time.
It's a new era of time.
No, I mean, is it time for outro? Y'all know? Is it time for outro?
This might have been the intro.
Islam.
Yeah, definitely. We want to always keep in mind the goal and the mission of who you are first, right? Because you can't get into the goal and the mission of the Moorish Science Temple of America if you haven't figured out the goal and the mission and how to utilize the science on self first, right?
That's right.
A lot of times we just are so focused on being able to show that we are the best super Moorish American Muslim that the world has ever seen. And we have neglected self time after time and time again. And that's a slave to sin. Neglecting self is being a slave to sin. Islam.
That's right.
When we're talking about the science of the Moorish Americans, you're supposed to be able to use this. That's the reason why we have these symbols that resemble the ones in the workshop of the mind, to be able to utilize them in every part. Islam, with that I yield.
Islam, and just to maybe camel back over that real shortly is just as far as the Moorish science, one of the things that really attracted me was the fact that they dealt with A, B, and C issues. And what I mean is, a lot of times in my life, I've met with individuals or heard individuals speak in an A and C manner. Like A would be, this is your problem, you got an issue. And then they would speak about the C part, which is, you need to not have that issue. And the B part was always truly missing. There would be some rhetoric sometimes, but it would be missing. And the B part is what the Moorish Science Temple offered along with A and C, which is how
to fix it. That's right.
How? Because there came a time in my life where I said, listen, if all I really needed to do, for starters, if the first step is belief, I want to believe. If you put a gun to my head, though, I'm not sure I could believe, because what is it? I didn't even have anybody explain to me what belief was before the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. All my life, I was just told that's what I had to do or else. And in my mind, I'm like, well, dang, I want to. If the faith, if all I need was a mustard seed of it, where do I buy that? Where do I get that? How do I form that? Little did I know that I was the creator of the seeds. I didn't know any of these things, And so for me to just get something so simple, I became enamored with the beauty of truth and the simplicity of its charms. When I learned, it was just like, well, belief is just what you think perhaps is true. When I heard that, I almost was overcome with emotion, because I was like, you mean this is all? And then to top it off, I believed in that moment that it was that simple. I was like, this is it. And then I learned what happens if I start to entertain thoughts with just merely the belief, which is really a name of a power of man. I didn't know this until I met the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who said, you had to develop your sense of your powers.
That's right.
How are you going to use your powers effectively and you don't even sense them? AKA, you're not even aware truly that they exist. You've been using words that hint all around them, but you're crying, but you're not using your abilities because you don't know them. And so, again, basically what I want to say is one of the things that the Moorish Science Temple of America will offer, but you've got to work, because verily Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. But you can at least think perhaps maybe this part right here is true. The Moorish Science Temple of America, in no uncertain manner, offers you one of the truest idea, because an idea is the element of reality in anything. It offers you the truest idea in this new era of time now of what the problem is, where you need to go, and how to get there. How to get there. And one of the most beautiful things is it's so empowering that you will realize that you're the one that's going to take you there.
That's
you
right.
don't have to wait on anybody or anything outside of yourself. You know, and that is one of the things I really love about the Moorish Science Temple of America. The science of the Moors empowers an individual because it enables you to see your connection with the great God Allah, Islam. With that, I yield.
Islam. Okay. So for the record, we got 383 people watching right now. All right. So I want to share a degree. Something that we talked about in Sunday school today. So in the chapter 35, which is the chapter that we have an assignment on this month, in chapter 35, it says that Allah ruleth and directeth with infinite wisdom. Okay. So we kind of talked about this, but I want to share this degree with the Moors, because now a question we need to ask and answer for ourselves is, what is this infinite wisdom? What is infinite in this context? Okay, so infinite in this context is just like Jesus said when he wrought with his Father. When Jesus was working with his hands, building these dwellings with his dad, he said, these tools remind me of the ones we handle in the workshop of the mind, where things are made of thought and where we build up character. Okay, so these tools, these hammers, this saw, this axe, this square, this compass, they remind me of the tools that we handle in the workshop of the mind. So now in this context, ruleth and directive with infinite wisdom. Okay, now we are being told, because we are made in the image after the likeness of Allah, we are being told that if we want to be successful in our ruling over the things that we have jurisdiction over, then we need to do it with infinite wisdom. So now infinite in this case becomes a tool. It becomes a tool. Okay. So now when we look at infinite, we are now still dealing with time. Even though something that's infinite has no beginning, nor does it have an ending, it still does what? It still brings us into the thought of time.
That's right.
Now, if we got this cycle, because we measure time by cycle ages, that's what we do. And we do it because it makes us most effective. All right. Because when you measure time by cycles, or this infinity, this circle, which is the perfect symbol, there is behind you, always near enough to you, all the past. Okay. The science of the past we call history. And whenever we go into that science and utilize that science called history, then we can always take from history lessons that would allow for us to do what? Not only benefit in the present, but it will help us to map out and create a future that will please us, that we can walk into. Okay, so I want to share that degree because this is part of the science of the Moorish people. Everybody out there who listening, measure time by cycle ages. Okay, because if you start measuring time from one point to the next point, at some point, you're going to get too far away to be able to observe everything that's behind you. But when it's a cycle or when it's a circle, then it is always ever present. Okay, there's exercises that must be implemented when it comes to measuring time by cycle ages. Who are the ones who measure time by cycle ages? The master students. We measure time by cycle ages because we are constantly and consistently reading, reflecting, meditating, praying. These things keep us conscious of the past.
That's right.
It's what keeps the past present. And what makes these lessons and these teachings and these experiences, not only our own experiences, lessons and teachings that we have for ourselves, but from people from the past, from our ancestors, from our friends, things we observe all around us. We have all of this stuff available to us, y'all. So learn to measure time by cycle ages. Islam. Join the master student movement. This is a movement, y'all. This is a movement. Okay? Right. Let's be humble. Let us be humble, especially the Muslims, the Muslims. You have a lesson in your Holy Quran. There's a lesson in your Holy Quran that speaks to this master student movement. Okay? Didn't one want to, he say, man, where does knowledge come from? Who is the most wise? I am. What did Allah say? It's one we taught him ourselves. We taught him ourselves. He is the most wise amongst the living, and I want to go learn from him. How could you, Melchizedek? What happened when he went to go learn from Melchizedek? What did Melchizedek say? He said, you will not be patient with me. You will not be patient enough to learn what it is that you think that you want to know. All right? This is the beginning of the master student movement.
That's right.
Way back when. Islam.
Islam.
All right, y'all. Now it's outro for real, y'all. Outro for real. You know what I mean? Paradigm shifting the podcast. Hopefully, you know, Allah willing, inshallah, you know.